Sup, bitches?
You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to a video I have been planning to make for a while, but it's another one of those ones that I keep wanting to try and get the words right, but I can't really do that if I don't just fucking record the damn thing, so I'm gonna try my best here, and just try to get my thoughts out as concisely as possible. The subject of today is, determinism and free will. Now, there's two kinds of determinism. There's the spiritual, cosmic type of determinism that a lot of religions believe in. And then there's what I would call genetic determinism. You know, saying that people don't really have free will because of things that are genetic or environmental or what have you. Now, I myself don't like the concept of fully believing in determinism 100% because I think that it just completely deludes any reason to do anything. I really don't like the concept of determinism in many aspects, but I do think there are factors that do determine key things that we would be more likely to do, because we are shaped by our genetics, by our environment, by those around us, and our upbringing, our education, all sorts of different things, right? So in that sense, there is a certain degree of things that we have in our nature and in our own upbringing and stuff that obviously make things more likely. We also are, you know, primitive in some regards with some of our things in our nature. There's things that people do involuntarily or without even really realizing why we do them. We all do stupid shit from time to time. But I don't really like the concept of just thinking, oh, well, it's all determined by that, because I do absolutely believe in free will. I also think it's dangerous as an extreme for people to think that, oh, I have no free will, or I'm just this, because if people get in the mindset that they are just what they are, then they have no motivation to change. People use it as a crutch, as an excuse to not accomplish anything, to not do anything. I am pretty fucking individualistic in a lot of regards. I think that it's a little bit more nuanced than that, because I also do believe that no one is born in a vacuum, and you have a community, and you have an upbringing, and things like that, right? But I think that, to me, I think we do have free will, but I think that free will, and again, this is kind of also going into the more cosmic, spiritual, religious aspect of determinism, I think we do have free will. But there are things that may, you know, taint that. I don't think we have perfect free will. I don't think there's a such thing as perfect free will, right? There are different factors that kind of guide our proclivities and our nature and just kind of what we're naturally going to do. But at the same time, I think that people who believe that we don't have free will, well, then you might as well just not do anything if you don't believe that. I think it's a retarded concept and kind of a doomer concept to believe that free will doesn't exist, because free will, I think, is absolutely essential to being able to make decisions. I am also a big believer in redemption, and if there's no free will, then how is redemption possible, right? Like, I think people changing and becoming better is such an important thing that we need more of. And if we're talking in, like, the cosmic religious sense, well, if everything was predetermined, then it doesn't fucking matter what you do, right? And I think that that's a problem. And I also think that, like, if you talk in the religious sense, I don't really think a God that was deterministic would make sense for there to be anything, because at that point, everything's already pre-planned out. There's no reason to ever do anything. And why would God have made people with sin who are imperfect if he himself could just, like, snap his fingers and do it immediately and not have any limitations and also be deterministic? That's why, again, as I said in my religious video, I think that God isn't deterministic per se, and I think that God himself has his own limitations that we don't understand, and I would never pretend to understand something on that nature or the metaphysical makeup of the universe. I myself have been trying to get more back into my faith. I'm not like the most religious guy in the world, obviously, but it is something I've been thinking more and more about lately. But I think things like understanding the nature of God and these metaphysical and supernatural things isn't ever something we're ever going to be capable of, so I don't see a point in obsessing over the actual, like, details and specifics of certain things like some people do. Like, obviously I think about it, otherwise I wouldn't bring up the deterministic aspect of it and whatnot, and, like, actually bring up my opinions on this, because I do have opinions on it. But what I mean is, at the end of the day, the actual details are less important to me than the morals. We don't need to get too into the minutia. What I mean by that is there are things I have come to accept that I don't understand when it comes to, religion and metaphysics. But nevertheless, I do think we have free will. I do think that we should be, better people as a society. I think we've degraded as a society in many ways, obviously. But I think that, obviously, again, there are things that determine things. There are patterns and pattern recognition that I think are good with establishing, patterns. It's good to be able to distinguish things and make decisions based on things. I don't think generalization is inherently a terrible thing, but I also do think that you also have to separate individuals from groups. You also have to take your own accountability. Accountability is something we need a hell of a lot more in society. We also need to bring back things like shame and, people, knowing a time and a place for things, too. But I absolutely do think we have free will, but free will itself is not perfect. I remember Jesse Lee Peterson always says, if you have free will, why don't you will yourself to have perfect peace? Because, again, he doesn't really get the concept of what free will is, because free will is not perfect, and it never will be. We don't have, 100% free will. No one is 100% an individual. People are products of their own upbringing, right? Again, I really hate the other extreme where people try to act like there is no free will, because to me that is a retarded and nihilistic concept that you shouldn't have. Free will is really fucking important, and I think that we should learn to get better with it. I think also understanding the different motivations and limitations on us, the things that restrict our free will, understanding them helps us to overcome or at least adapt to them, to understand things about ourselves. I think it's important to be able to understand why we think certain things so that we can understand things and move forward and adapt and change. So, free will absolutely exists. I think there's a lot of people that are stupid and NPCs that don't really exercise their free will and are more manipulated. I think that, again, sometimes when I'm being particularly cynical, I think of people being really, really stupid. It's like Albert Einstein says, the only three things in the universe that are infinite are the universe, human stupidity, and the number of Zubats in a cave. But my point is, I do think we have free will. I think that the brain is a very complicated thing. There's a lot of things in psychology that drive us, and there's a lot of things that various different schools of thought, I think, can get right. I think Jung got some things right. I think that Freud got some things right. I think they both got some things wrong, too. I think that the brain is very complex, and the way that thoughts work, for instance, are very complex and confusing. None of us voluntarily make our own thoughts, obviously. It's all just reaction to external stimuli, right? It's really hard to try and pinpoint exactly how the brain works. The brain is a really complex organ, and it's kind of crazy just how complex it can be. But it's also a very simple organ, too, because, we can kind of figure out what someone, like predictive technology can tell what you're going to do before you do it a lot of the time. And, I mean, that's scary as fuck. I hate that. I hate that that kind of thing exists. But that tells you that our brains do have, sort of an algorithm that make things more or less likely, right? Based on who we are and what we do, what we like, how we were brought up, who we associate with, whatever. But I don't think that's absolute. And I think that people should try and get outside their comfort zone and try and, actually be motivated to do something. And I say that as someone who himself has issues with motivation at times. I certainly haven't accomplished a whole ton of shit, right? I'm not a fucking billionaire at the top of the world or anything, right? I'm just some fucking guy on YouTube who works a normal job, right? I'm not saying that everyone is destined for greatness either. I don't think that we are. I think at the end of the day, we have to make the best of the cards we're dealt, and we do that by using our free will to make our lives as best as we can. But I think that trying to understand our own psychology is really fascinating to me, and it's something I always try to dissect. I always try and figure out why I think certain things, right? I do kind of a Socratic method on dissecting my own thoughts. Why do I think this? Oh, I think this because this. Okay, well, why this? Oh, well, this because this, and so on. I'll dive deeper and deeper and deeper. And I always try and iron out hypocrisies in my own thought processes, too, because I think no one is completely non-hypocritical, right? Everyone has some little hypocrisies in their own thought processes. So I always try to, boil it down and try to iron it out. and I can kind of drive myself nuts sometimes if I go too in deep and try and, like, analyze my thoughts too much. But, yeah, I think that free will and thoughts and the mind are just really interesting concepts to me, so I thought I'd ramble on a bit here for this episode of Random Thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this wasn't boring. But anyway, have a good one. Toodles.
You take forever to say nothing.
I'm gonna fucking subscribe to Fugitive Red Eye.